Hello, everybody. Welcome to the RSN podcast. July 4th is coming up. It's right around the corner, actually. And it's pretty interesting how we're celebrating the independence, which is Independence Day for us, July 4th. Very big weekend. People go to barbecues, have fun, be with family,
Go
drink,
away on vacation.
do all kinds of stuff. Get
Eat
away
burgers. Gotta eat burgers.
and hot dogs and all that good stuff. And celebrate the values of America. But also, there's another thing that also is very, I should say, which is a central idea of America too that we celebrate, which is diversity. Our country, basically, when we talk about America, it's a land of immigrants, basically. Everyone, whether they want to admit it or not, has been an immigrant or has some lineage to an immigrant. Basically, we have some kind of nationality, we have identity, we have a culture. And basically today what we're talking about is international stars in professional wrestling. Basically talking about international stars that have broken boundaries, broken cultural boundaries, broken religious boundaries, all that stuff. But for the sake of not being too political, we're just going to talk about the wrestling business, just talking about the stars that have been influential, the people that have made a difference in the wrestling business with their talent and bringing all that stuff over, and also the impact of those people coming into the different companies, wherever they were to work, and basically entertain us. So I'll hand it to you guys, and we'll just introduce this right here. So we got, on one side, we got Rich.
We got the big guy here saying what's up.
We got myself, the mastermind. And also we got the owner, operator, and COO, and, well, actually the COO of EWO. The man himself, Nick.
Welcome, folks. Hope everyone's enjoying themselves as they're days away from barbecued goodness, as I'm sure everyone is around this time of the year. As my colleagues put it before, I am in fact the owner, editor-in-chief of ProWrestlingOpinion.com, offering you the most in-depth, exclusive analysis, segment-by-segment breakdown of various TV shows, pay-per-views. We cover anything: WWE, TNA, ROH, America's Most Liked Wrestling, West Coast Wrestling Connection, Pro Wrestling Syndicate. We got stuff from the 80s, stuff from the 90s. We're working on some stuff for the in-betweens, the 2000 era, but, give us some time. We'll get to that time. But, yeah, Pro Wrestling Opinion, we cover pro wrestling past, present, and future. And with that, I think I will throw it back to you guys, because it's just all about the international flavor.
Well, it is. It's indeed. I mean, on top of that, you got a Facebook page, don't you, too, right? On PWO?
Yes, we do. Feel free to like us. It's Pro Wrestling Opinion. 3 simple words, pretty simple search, but a like that will last for the ages.
And like Nick said in previous podcasts, reading is fundamental. Reading wrestling puts you over the top.
Yes. You could have said it much better. That was a perfect way to put it.
You'll be still over. You'll be like Roman Reigns.
Hopefully not as bad as him, though.
And hopefully not as bad as whose name that we shall not speak of.
Please.
Sal, if you say the name, we're kicking you out of this chat.
Please, yeah. People are enjoying their, they're about to, get down with America being free and all that. We don't need that name mentioned.
A certain red-haired freak that we don't want to mention.
You're going too far,
okay,
man. People are gathering mental.
Let's leave it at that. Let's just leave it at that and
guys,
move on.
I have a request. Forgive me for saying these names, but in this podcast, can we not mention Eva Marie, Kevin Dunn, or Jim Cornette? Please?
Oh, God. You've done too much damage.
We're
going down.
I said forgive me for saying those names, but I do not want to hear those 3 names mentioned in this show, please.
You might need some Listerine. You already talked about them.
I apologize, but...
Our listeners are going to need Listerine, too.
They need some what's that, Axol or some shit like that, alcohol to clean out their ears because,
and scope and a toothbrush. You got to get to it right away. This way you can come back and listen to us about the international stars.
Indeed.
We'll give you guys about 30 seconds.
Okay,
You
time's
guys
up.
about to say something?
Time's up.
Yeah, there you go. Let's get back to this.
Hopefully we're all back, right? Okay. So for this podcast, we're specifically talking about international stars.
Well, I have
When we
a
talk
question
about
I have a question for you guys. For this show, are we talking international as in they were born and raised in the country, or they went to the country from America?
I think it's only fair that we discuss both of those situations, because don't forget,
yes,
you could come from one place and affect a different company, because in that different company they are
Per-
technically an international star.
Perfect example, AJ Styles. He came from America, went to Japan. Is that considered
International
international
star.
star or
Yeah.
no?
Yeah,
yeah, that's
it's
international.
technical, because it's somewhere else. He technically is an international star. If you're coming from somewhere else in a different place and you're making a name for yourself, you're an international star. You don't have to be from America to be a star in Japan, just like you don't have to be a star in Japan to be a star in America.
Because
They're,
people have
yeah,
different meanings to international star.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, well, there's a thing also. That's what we define what an international star is. Basically, a star that's not only performed here in the United States, but performed abroad. So Mexico, Japan, Europe, everywhere, Asia, Africa, everywhere, you name it. They performed at a global level. They've exceeded at that, and they've been known globally for that. But on top of that, there's we can talk about the times. If you compare now and then, we actually have more now, like more born international stars than we had like coming over here, for example. Like well actually now matter of fact you could say that we have more multinational, multicultural stars. Basically stars that were born here but have a lineage to either some culture or another culture, and they have like a cross cultural thing. And that's something that they bring over, and that's another piece of diversity that they bring into the country. For example, The Rock. His mom was from, mom has a lineage from Samoa. Dad is from, dad is born here, American, and as a result, we got The Rock, half Samoan, half black, and that's one example. But in addition, we can talk about the different stars that were born and then brought here. But let's start off with going through the times. I mean, if you think about the eras and all the companies that were there, let's talk about, for example, back in the day, AWA. Help go even further back, whether just the territories, Mid-Atlantic, and all that other stuff. There wasn't many international stars. The thing, like, there wasn't that much, But one name I think really stands out. If you think about one name, what's his name? Italian star who transcended everything. Famous name.
Bruno
Bruno Sammartino.
Sammartino.
And he's probably one of the first, world-renowned stars that have ever made that kind of impact. Where they're an international star that came off from outside and they came to America to make a living. And perfect story right there. But Bruno Sammartino is one of those examples that exemplify a international star. But I mean, when you look back, are there any other stars that have made that kind of impact in those times?
Andre the Giant.
I would actually, the first guy to like really make me think about like a foreign gimmick, the first guy to like really make it like mainstream on WWE at least, I'd probably go with maybe the Sheik, or maybe not. If not the Sheik, I would probably go with what's his?
Well, actually, Sheik is like towards the 80s, isn't he?
He is
There's
towards
actually,
yeah, he is towards the 80s, but I think going back to like my earliest memory of a guy who like really took the idea of being like international, like blended his lifestyle with his gimmick. The first guy to like really make that known, I think for me, is the Sheik.
and Sheik, of course, from Iran.
And
That's what
now
you're
he
talking
breaks
about.
backs, and
He makes people
lots of
humble.
other fun expletive activities.
He makes
Well,
people humble.
yeah. Rich, why don't you tell us about Iron Sheik and your experiences and thoughts about him?
Well, my personal opinion, which everyone on the show could agree, hands down, he's the greatest shoot interview person ever. He breaks backs. He makes people humble. Everyone's a jabroni to him. And little known fact, he enjoys watching Steph Curry play basketball.
Which is very interesting because this guy has a lot of he's from Iran. If you look at, I don't know if you guys seen the documentary with the Sheik. He has a whole documentary of his whole story and everything. I
Oh,
think it's
and
called
he said he should have broke Hulk Hogan's back.
Vern Gagne was telling him to break his back, and he would give him $100,000. He'd say, "Okay, I'll take care of you," and he said no. And that's something that you can respect because this guy, he was a legitimate heel. He was being treated like crap in WWF, and they gave him a push, and he was loyal. And that's what I think the cultural thing was. He was kind of like, in that time, you have to be loyal to, who took care of you. He said, this is his words, "I don't cut the hand that feed me." And you gotta respect that. You gotta say, and he was probably one of the best heels ever. There were people that were literally wanted to go, and when he was in the parking lot, they would want to freaking kill him right there on the spot. People want to shoot him up, kill him right there on the spot because he was this anti-American, hero and anti-hero and all this stuff. But that's something that I think was also very, very, really, really influential part of him. What else do you guys think is something that international stars should bring? Because if you think about it, with the Sheik, what happened was he was probably the first ever anti-American character. Would you guys agree?
I think a good international star, the British Bulldog.
That was anti-American.
No,
No,
he
no, I
first
just
came
saying
onto
in
the
general.
he first came onto the scene as like a white meat babyface, and then he was teaming up with Kid Dynamite as part of the British Bulldogs, which is where he derived his gimmick from when the team broke up. But yeah, I think that's.
But then he went
good,
to
yeah,
the
that's a
Hart
good pick.
Foundation, who was anti-America.
I think that was the evolution, isn't it, of international stars, where if you're a heel, you're automatically seen as an anti-American. And
Yeah.
like the most faces, they're either big because of the talent, what they bring,
Or they're
or
pro-America.
they're pro-America, or they just talk about America.
And people just
But
like chant USA.
yep. But I think that's the thing. That's if you especially look at that time, that was like that was a golden era basically. People were coming in left and right, immigrants. It was a new nation. Everybody, we grew through that time, and there's like a whole bunch of stories we will talk about. Interactions with different
Because
people. That
if
was
you
like the first.
remember back in the golden era, when it was Sheik as the top heel, it was Sheik versus Hogan, which was America versus Iran, and then Sergeant Slaughter turned on America,
That was the first glimpse of seeing American turn heel and anti-American.
which was probably the biggest heel turn ever.
Well, here's another thing too. With Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Mr. USA.
Mr. America.
Yeah, and there's a story of him and Sheik going on the New Jersey Turnpike. And what do you see in the papers? Two bozos caught on the highway doing dope while driving, all this stuff. That kind of brought a blow, didn't it, to the business? I mean, people kind of yelled at them, said, "Oh, you guys broke the whole business. You guys took it down. Now kayfabe is dead." What would you guys say to that?
That
Well,
was just wow when I first heard that.
Well, most people they
well,
would say that it was like, "Oh, this guy's a foreigner. He's from outside, and he did this, and now he just corrupted one of our own." Well, that was, I think, the mentality behind that.
I'm just speechless at that because when that happened, it was the whole Sheik anti-American thing. He's caught with the American guy.
And he was a heel, and Hacksaw was a face, I think, right?
Yeah. I don't think Hacksaw was ever a heel.
Yeah, that's another thing that American never is the heel. I mean, even if you look currently now, any person that's preaching America, have they ever been a heel while being, like pro-American?
Not that I could recall.
What about the faction of the Real Americans with Cesaro and Jack Swagger?
I would consider, well, going if you know, if we're kind of referencing our factions episode, but I wouldn't consider them a faction per se. They were more like a tag team with the Valet.
Yeah.
But I did like the idea, at least on paper, of well, it was just kind of ironic because Jack Swagger's heel character is basically like what Kurt Angle's original Olympic hero gimmick was in the Attitude Era, just like this over-the-top American just bragging about his accomplishments, making you hate him even though he's like a patriotic figure.
Just
That's what kind
remember,
of,
he
yeah, that's
won a
what
gold medal with a broken freaking neck.
broken
You have to
freaking neck.
respect him.
You have
All
to.
for America. All for America, should we say?
And then, yeah, so basically, like, Jack Swagger's, heel, they kind of went on, like, the Republican kind of point of view, where, like, they wanted all the immigrants out, this and that. So Zeb Coulter was just kind of like his mouthpiece to, like, rile the people up, and then, like, he would do his thing in the ring. But I guess it's just a little bit,
What I find
I wouldn't
funny
point, I
about
wouldn't point to
that,
them as like a first example of like great heel.
what I find funny though about that stable, they're pro-America, pro-America. You have someone who's from Switzerland in your stable.
I think that just adds to the irony of it. I think that's what made it work because they hate America,
But I
even though
always
they
find
are
that funny
preaching
though.
for America.
I always find that funny though. You have someone who's from Switzerland in a pro-American group.
And that was kind of revolutionary because most groups you wouldn't see that. You would either see the reverse in Sergeant Slaughter's case, where he turned and he was the American going on the pro Iran side. That was kind of interesting too. But how about let's talk about the different talents. How about during the Monday Night Wars? We always have this. If we reference one of our old episodes, we talked about the rise and fall, where there was this influx of talent that came in from Mexico and Japan specifically, and their impact on that. What names do you think kind of bring about that? That whole change.
Yeah, I think that was actually maybe the first instance where international stars got to perform on it. I mean, you can't not mention names like Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit. Yes, I
Oh,
said
you
his
said it,
name.
Chris.
Sue me. I don't know where Dean Malenko's. I don't know if he's Canadian, but they all kind of came in within that same era. I mean, yeah, their characters didn't really go anywhere per se, but they got the chance to do what they do best, put on really good wrestling matches and just get, fans on that side of the spectrum, like, entertained, while the main event storylines, kept you hooked into the show. I think that was the first instance where international stars, like, got their chance to, like, really break out. I'll even mention names like Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, La Parca. I think there were also the Villanuevas. I forget the name of there was like 5 of them, but I think there's probably a few other names I'm forgetting too.
Who was in the group that you were talking about? I don't remember them.
Which one?
The one you can't remember the name of?
Mexico?
No, it was like Los Villanuevas or something like or Villanova. It's completely slipping my mind. And watch after we finish this, I'm gonna end up remembering like 2 minutes after. I'm gonna totally be kicking myself because
Remember who was in
like
it though?
no, it was just like a generic mass luchador, but there were like 3 of them, 3 or 4 of them, like 4 different incarnations of them. And they were like, it was like 1997. They would wrestle on Nitro. Like he was part of like the international, kind of team, not team, but like he would take part in those matches where it would just be like random cruiserweight against random cruiserweight, just for the sake of like a spot fest. Yeah, the name is totally slipping my mind, but I have to mention them as part of this conversation. I mean, at least if you know of them. I know it definitely there's like a V in there somewhere. I don't know if it's like Villanova or Villanueva, but they used to be like 3 or 4 of them back in the day. And it's really I'm really pissed that I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but it was entertaining, that's for sure. The Rey Mysterio Psychosis matches when they happened in ECW, I think that was
The
that
Mexican
really
death match.
yeah, they wowed everyone, and then when they got the chance to do it in WCW, it was even better. Even though their matches were kind of like toned down versions of those, but you can't
Oh, yeah.
deny that Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero had like some awesome matches back in the day.
I mean, that's all the Mexican talent mostly. There's also the Japanese talent too. If you look at some names such as the Great Muta, you look at who else?
Tajiri.
Tajiri. There's there's also I think there's so many names you could list. There's Tiger Mask. I think his name was
Yeah, Tiger
Ultimo
Mask.
Tiger Mask, Ultimo Dragon. Um, but this, like for example, like specifically Great Muta
We're forgetting one legend. A man no one brought him up. I was waiting to see.
for Japan.
Yeah. Yushin Thunder Liger.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely. He's even still around nowadays, which is amazing because you could still pretty much go at his age.
He just performed last year at Brooklyn.
Yep. And he's still going. And also look at, for example, Great Muta also. Like Great Muta, Jushin Thunder Liger, these guys, this is their life. They're semi-retired, but they keep going. Like, they keep on going.
He
over and
appeared
over.
on both NXT and ROH within months of each other.
And it's interesting that they're performing at this level. They're really, really old, and they're still performing at this specific level. But also another thing, the times, they're basically in the time where it's kind of like, it's kind of hostile, where there's like a lot of stuff going on, and like going from place to place, you're not really welcome a lot. Like if you were to wrestle in Japan or Mexico, it's pretty much known. Okay, you're a performer. But if you were like, let's say Puerto Rico, or if you were to go to even in the United States, you'd be kind of looked down. You'd probably say, oh, that's just another cruiserweight, or oh, that's just another guy that likes doing gymnastic stuff. But that's kind of interesting that these guys revolutionized it, and now there's more new talent that are coming in, specifically in the independents, that are performing this style. Another big match. This recently happened. It was a very big match on social media. Everywhere was talking about it recently. It was Ricochet versus I can't remember his name. I forgot his name.
Will Ospreay.
Yes, Will Ospreay. They said that was probably one. I don't know if you guys seen the match. That match was it was crazy. They had so many spots. Two like fantastic athletes and their prime. They were doing all these spots and everything, and people were kind of criticizing them, like specifically legends. I remember Vader going up and saying something about how that's not real wrestling, and then some people were like, "Oh, that is real wrestling. That is wrestling," and that's kind of interesting how there's this style, and people kind of say, "Oh, that's not how it is," because if you think back in the day where it was like the technical style, they saw that as wrestling, but now it's totally different from that. Now everything has just evolved, where a simple springboard is kind of, back then would have been, oh my god, that's not wrestling, but now it's like, okay, that's part of the act. So I mean, what would you guys say to that? Do you guys feel like they should continue to stay in that style, or should they perform these spots?
I personally say let the cruiserweights and the light heavyweights, whatever you want to call them now, let them do what they're used to. Let them do high performance moves. Let them do the high flying moves off the top rope, off a ladder. If you go TNA, let them do it off the Ultimate X match platform thing that they got, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
DX.
Yeah, well, whatever you want to call that shit. Let them do what they're used to. That's what they were taught in whatever dungeon or dojo wrestling school they went to. That's what they were signed to do. If you're 190 pounds, you're going to be a high flyer. If you're 190 pounds and you want to roam with the big guys, all props to you. You're probably going to get destroyed by someone who's 270 pounds.
I think I kind of like the idea that they're bringing back the whole cruiserweight tournament. Just because I'm a fan of like the big, aerial maneuver kind of wrestling match. It's a different way of looking at a match, and it also keeps the crowd engaged. We've seen things that just shouldn't happen between human beings in a wrestling ring, but they make it possible because you just have that kind of chemistry. You could work many matches, many different types of styles. But I think crowd entertainment is like the biggest factor, and if you can keep them engaged for like 20 plus minutes in like an epic battle, more power to you. I think where WCW and like where WWE goes wrong sometimes that they push these guys as like high flyers, but they don't really know what to do with them. Past a certain point, they'll get up to a high position on the card, but they won't really maintain that position, or they don't know how to push them even further. As that's where WCW went wrong, and you've seen a lot of the backbone of WCW were the cruiserweights, and when they deflected to WWE, they made their product better, and WCW suffered because of it. I think it's just a way of like Rich said, letting the guys do what they do. That's the way you should book people. Book them to their strengths and their advantages, just like how they got over in the Indies. Have them do the same thing in WWE. It's working with Owens. He's kind of like the loudmouth heel that he was very notorious for back in ROH, and it's working for him. And then you got, they were doing stuff with Neville per se, but I mean, at his core, he was just a guy who could fly. They didn't really have a story with him, I guess, outside of NXT. But I guess he got injured, unfortunately, so we didn't really get to see anything develop from that. But the fact that he could, you can be a high flyer in this sport and still get a lot of success. It's just trying to maintain that success into
I have a question for you guys. Since we're on the high flyer, would you consider Sami Zayn a high flyer
Yes.
or no?
Yes,
Yeah.
he would.
You
If
think
he
so?
flies out of the ring, he's a high flyer. And then not even that, back from his El Generico days, he was pretty much a luchador. I mean, you can't deny it. And a lot of his
Okay.
offense is still aerial based,
What about Seth?
Yes, I would consider him too, because he flies off the top rope. He does all these things. He toned it down a little bit more to that WWE kind of style, which he does very well. But
I
at
think
times he'll break
now
out
that he's
those.
back from his knee surgery, I think he's gonna take it easy now.
Well, that's
But
with the
we could be wrong.
yeah. I mean that's with any performer really now. I mean, especially now with the concern of these people doing high spots, there's more risk of injury. Because if you look at the past year and a half, there's been injury after injury after injury, and there's been a whole roll call of injuries. People have been out. It's limited the roster's capacity to the point where they said, okay, let's tone down the spots. But now it's, we're fans. We don't want to see the same old technical wrestling. We want to see something extravagant, something cool.
We're
And
the
that's
internet marks. We want to see what we want to see.
we want to see what we want to see. And also, we don't want to keep seeing the same thing over and over. I mean, like, for example, two great stars, two great international stars who are masters in the ring. Fit Finley, William Regal. An Irishman and British, roundhouse. He can go ahead and perform 1, 2, 3. He's a freaking fly on the mat. He can do whatever. Like, you tell him to do it, he's going to be able to master that.
And to be
do it
honest,
perfectly.
back in the day, I didn't mind seeing that match every single week because you knew it was going to be a 5-star match between those two.
With Fit Finley and William Regal?
Exactly. Back in
I
WCW days, I loved seeing those two guys put on a match every single week.
Well, I think
Not,
as individuals, they were pretty good. But, like, I think most fans, they don't really want, like, for example, me, my initial impression was like, okay, this is boring. I'd rather, watch something else. I'd rather see the high flyers, But that's probably age preference and everything, because once you see something, you want to see something cool. But as you get more patience, you start saying, oh, okay, this is cool, this is cool. But, like, for example, those two stars, why haven't they ever become world champion? Is it because they're only stuck to that style, And, like, for
no
example,
one
let's say
knows.
Yeah, I mean, look at Rey Mysterio. He's transcended. He's done all kinds of stuff. He's gone to the other style, but he still brings back the luchador style, and he became world champion. So why haven't these two become world champion? Is it because they're too stuck on the technical wrestling, or they're too stuck with what they know and what they learn, and
You know,
that's what's limiting
my personal opinion, I think it was booking.
booking?
Yeah, I think it was the WCW booking that held them back from getting the title. My personal opinion.
That's true. I mean, to a point. I mean, I think to a degree. I mean, but still, like they went to WWE. And still, they didn't get that much. I mean, if you look at William Regal, he had stints back and forth, sporadic appearances from like 2000 to 2010, back and
But
forth, back.
Regal did have a kind of like a say in the storylines because he was technically booked as the commissioner,
Yeah.
and then he helped get guys over, things along that sort.
And I remember Jericho peed in his tea as a commissioner.
Yeah, I think that's probably his most significant moment, I guess you want to say, getting peed, in a cup by another guy. But
There was so many
he did
comedic stuff.
he did put on good matches though. That's for sure. I can't remember like one per se. I'd say maybe against Jericho at WrestleMania 17.
But then
I
you
have a
can
hard
even
time
go,
remembering
you could
like
go kind of new also. His matches against Cesaro in NXT.
to an extent, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with the like for Cesaro, for example, the Swiss Superman, like like you see his style and you go, that's a future world champion. And you're kind of looking and banging your head saying, why didn't they make this guy world champion? Is it because of his style? Is it because he's too stubborn? I mean, specifically like the European wrestlers, they kind of have this kind of this limitation being set right now. Look at Neville. Look at for example, who else? Look at Wade Barrett, for example. Why were they limited?
Because they didn't have the it factor.
What'd you say to that, Nick? You were saying something? My fault.
Um, I mean, as far as like Barrett, I kind of liked how uh, it's weird because even though I know he's like a British guy, he wasn't really, they didn't really embellish that when they first started pushing him because he was just kind of like that guy. He was the standout guy on NXT season one. That's undoubtedly. But I think it's because he was paired with Jericho, who was like the suit veteran heel at the time, and then he kind of came out with like his own blazer with the rose. He had his own look. He had a pretty good moveset. So he got to stand out on his own, and then he could cut some really good promos too. And then he emerged as the Nexus leader. But it never really was established like, oh hey, this guy is from British, not from British, from Britain. And it's like, oh, he can kick some ass too. It was around one of like his later gimmicks where they started pushing like the fact that he's like this British badass, like the Barrett Barrage and all that. But
I miss
then
that. I miss
yeah,
that.
things took a downturn like once they started focusing on like the bad news Barrett, and we kind of lost the idea of like, oh, hey, this guy's from Britain, so he's a total badass. Besides from the show that they did in London, so they didn't really embellish the gimmick the way that I think they could have to get him over even more. But I don't think he wanted to be pushed that way. Because you already had guys like Rusev, being billed as where they're from, getting over that way. But I think it would have actually helped Barrett a little bit more had he been pushed as like, the face of Britain. He never really got a face run either. That
Yeah,
would have
I
been
mean,
cool to see what would have happened.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting how they give him all these gimmicks, and they're so centered around a certain stereotype or a certain um, cultural thing. Like, oh, you're the British guy, this is what you do. I think that's what's kind of limiting most of these talents. And you also look at the fact that Wade Barrett, he had a lot of potential. His style in the ring, he was able to perform at a good pace. But then they gave him these shitty gimmicks, and then people kind of lost touch because they put out so many gimmicks, but then at the same time we're kind of like, how can we associate him with one. And I think that's the challenge that they have. They can put as many masks as they want on a person, but if you can't associate one person or one face, then you really have lost, the person has really lost interest in that person, in that star. And I think that was the case for Wade Barrett. But here's another thing. With cultural stereotypes, for example, let's look with, for example, Giant Gonzalez, big guy, Hispanic. They didn't bring his culture or anything like that into play, but he was this big guy from outside, and they didn't bring none of that. They just said, okay, he's this big guy, stay out from out of nowhere, and he does this, and he's an intimidating force. Let's talk about another guy, for example, Great Khali, big guy,
Oh my
7 foot.
God, he was horrible.
He was a train wreck, and I'm speaking as an Indian. Like when you see that, and you're kind of like, damn, that's kind of
He
messed up.
only, he only got his push because of his look. That was it. The guy couldn't wrestle. Oh Lord, he couldn't.
He could barely move.
He couldn't move. He had no power, nothing. He couldn't do anything. And the thing is, they put the world title on him, and they just gave it to him because they thought they saw potential in him. But
No, they didn't see potential in him. Vince
But as a
saw dollar signs.
but as a heel, what about a heel? I mean, he was pretty good as a heel. I mean, when you saw him debut and beat the Undertaker, you kind of were like, who the hell is this guy? Is this Giant Gonzalez's cousin coming out of nowhere? Like, who is this guy? And then as you see that he starts becoming his heel, this anti-American or this foreigner that just does stuff, and then they just put up a whole bunch of like stereotypical stuff, and it was just kind of like, okay, you guys need to like, there's no point in this, because there was a segment where they would have the Punjabi prison match, they would have segments
Which was a horrible match.
there would be segments where he gave like a peace offering, or he would be I'm the guy, like how can you get behind that? Like, I understand stereotypes. You want to make some, comedic stuff or anything. Some people can relate to, but it's kind of like, you're really limiting the guy because you're kind of putting him in this fixed realm, and then that's it, and then they just fall off. I mean, there's so many talents you could talk about that have done the same, But so we talked about Mexico, we talked about Japan. What about Canada?
We even do India in there.
I mean, well, from what I know, one star that I think is pretty good that has made a difference. I don't know if you heard of him, Tiger Jeet Singh.
I heard of him before.
He's like the Great Muda of India, supposedly. Like he has the style or something, but that's from what I'm hearing. But I haven't.
Does he have strong style?
Well, yeah. Well, strong style is more of a well, right now it's becoming more of a European style, isn't it? Because you see people like Zack Sabre Jr.
I think he's going to be a monster.
He is a phenomenon.
If he comes to NXT, he's going to be a monster.
I think WWE is pushing for him. They want him to be the next John Cena, and I hope they do make him the next. I think
what they're doing with the whole cruiserweight tournament, I think it's the winner gets a contract. I think they said, if I heard correctly.
Well, it seems that way. Yeah, they're definitely trying to push him to be. They're trying to push someone to get a spot in NXT or on the main roster or something like that. But it looks that way because and here's another thing. WWE has this Cruiserweight Classic, right? Other promotions have had like some kind of global tournament or some kind of global cup. TNA had the X Cup, I think the World X Cup or something like that. And
some shit like that.
Yeah, and ROH had, I think, a couple of international competitions.
They always have it every year, though. ROH always has it every year.
I do have to applaud TNA for the move, though, because the World X Cup, I think, was probably the best implementation of international stars, because at the time they had to deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
That's true, yeah.
Or was it Dragon Gate? It was like one of the other two. And then they threw Mike Tenay on commentary. He's always knowledgeable about the international talents. You got to be like the Professor Mike, like he was in WCW.
Professor Tenay.
And then you had like Motor City Machine Guns going against Speed Muscle. I used to see Speed Muscle in the independent circuit back in Ring of Honor. So it was really awesome to like see them on TV fighting.
Why does that name sound familiar?
Because they had the blonde guy and the short guy, but one was really fast and the other one was really strong. So that's why they
what were
called
their
Speed
names?
Muscle. Masato Yoshino and I'm forgetting the other one, but they were really like.
Because that name sounds so familiar when you said that. I just couldn't match the names to the group.
I'm forgetting one name, but one was definitely Masato Yoshino. He was like a beast, like speed-wise in the ring. Like he would run the ropes in a millisecond.
Okay.
It was pretty awesome. And not even that, you had other guys too, like I'm trying to think of like Doug Williams first got his name, like
Petey
well,
Williams.
in ROH he really first made his name, but then he kind of like came back on the circuit, with that tournament.
Then you had Petey Williams.
Yeah, Petey Williams kind of got to do it. There's another name too that's slipping my mind, but he was also a presence in the tournament. It was from the British side. Or was it Canada? I'm not too sure, but
Then you have the guys now, Spud, who isn't impressive.
He is good though, but I feel like
He is good, but he's not like impressive.
They go like one step forward, two steps back with him because he can cut a really good promo.
Oh, then you got Magnus and Bram.
Magnus and Bram are pretty. Well, Magnus, you see him, he's a force.
He's in he's the GFW champion now.
Yeah, and I think he has potential of becoming like an NXT superstar for sure. I think NXT is keeping their eye on him for sure. But yeah, I mean, this like TNA, they were probably the first to actually bring up this whole global, involvement, like with the cups and everything. Also, ROH, they have so many different partnerships with like AAA, New Japan, with bringing talent, and they have like a Global Wars pay-per-view, let's say, or something else like that. And
I'm just throwing this out there, guys. Whoever comes with a deal with Lucha is gonna make so much money. Whoever has a partnership with Lucha Underground.
Well, Lucha's like a subsidiary of AAA, I think, right? So,
they work with the company. They're kind of like they're close together, so they kind of they exchange talent. But it's good because you get to see international stars on an American kind of platform, and you get to see their story played out where you normally wouldn't get to because you have to unless you know Spanish and you could translate the commentary, you won't really get their motivation or what they're all about. At least with Lucha Underground, you can understand what the motivation is for guys like Phoenix. You got guys like Pentagon Jr.,
Prince Puma.
There's a whole bunch of different names that are just over because they're there. You got Drago, Aerostar, Daga, who came over from AAA. Yeah, Taya Valkyrie, who's also well known in AAA. Just Puma. A lot of different AAA talent that is getting to do their thing on an American platform, and it's just another place to showcase their skills, and they could do things, and have the storylines be in English, and you could still have them pushed the same way you normally would on Spanish television. So it's pretty cool. That's one of the things I like about Lucha Underground. It's a television show about a wrestling show, but it's not about wrestling. It's kind of more thematic. It's more dramatic, and above all else, you get really good matches because it's really easy to tell stories with the Lucha style, television.
And you have the amazing Joey Ryan there.
The controversial Joey Ryan, Jesse.
With his penis flip, or whatever the hell you want to call the move.
His indestructible penis. He's basically, if his penis was a character, like basically any kind of wrestler, it would be John Cena. Because basically, Superman, he doesn't fall, he keeps going up.
And always kicks out at 2.
Always kicks out at 2, indeed. Yes. Perfect match. But, I mean, we talked about this in the previous podcast. What's holding WWE back is not being able to do these kind of deals with different promotions. Well, they're doing right now with Evolve and all this, but in the future they need to do something where they can bring in these other, international stars and put themselves out there. Because if you really think about it, to be honest,
what they're lacking is international talent.
WWE?
Yeah, it's a proven fact. they're lacking international talent and international viewing.
Well, I think they're struggling right now because if you see the Performance Center, there's like people from over 50 countries over there trying to become WWE superstars. So I think they made a step, but they gotta do it quicker. I mean, if you think one of the biggest names right now, I forgot his name, La Sombra, I
Oh, yeah,
think
he's should be coming up to NXT. Like
he's coming
he's
to
like
NXT.
the guy,
And so, yes,
supposedly.
they book him as the guy. Like he's one of the biggest names, one of the biggest signees. I think Triple A was trying to get him and everything, like into this big thing. But like especially with these kind of new stars, it's kind of interesting to see what how this is gonna play now. I mean, and like WWPC, they have so Performance Center. They got so many talents from different countries, variety of countries, and they're trying to bring them in and do something. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think WWE needs to be more diverse.
But here's the
And
question though: is it too
what's your
late for
question?
them? Is it too late for
I don't think it's.
WWE to like try and get the overseas viewers? Is it too late?
I don't think because they book themselves as this. They basically promote themselves as this global phenomenon. So if they are a global phenomenon, they have to get the people everywhere. Because like honestly, when you see people, when you see them go overseas, what do you see in the crowd mostly? People are holding out their flag. There's always one patch of crowd, like one part of the crowd that has a flag of the nation, and they're doing they're holding it up and doing all that. And then when they see the person from their country, they go bonkers. They just go ape shit crazy. Like, oh my god, that's our guy, that's our guy. And I think that's what WWE lacks. They need more people like that, specifically in the Spanish Latino superstar. They don't have any. They really don't have any. It's Kalisto, and pretty much they don't have
That's
that
it.
much. And they're trying to make this thing with what do you call it, Primo and Epico, with the rebrand of making them
Oh
Puerto
no,
Rican.
Vince already cut that off.
You cut that off.
They had 2 matches and they're only doing vignettes now. They're not fighting.
Well, that's bullshit. Because see, that's another thing. WWE always limits. They put out these talents and then they limit them. And then there's
But
a
it's not
point.
even that. You have to like the way Vince sees it. If you get no crowd reaction, you're finished.
Yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3. You have to get a reaction,
Because
but
if
it
you
takes time.
remember, they're
It's not like their gimmick had much life to begin with, because it's like, welcome to our ring. It's Puerto Rico.
this
Welcome to
is
Puerto Rico.
paradise.
I didn't really understand it.
I
There are
think
these
yeah.
guys who like love Puerto Rico. Like I don't know like how far that gets you.
See, if
And
they
their
had
their
Carlito,
moveset wasn't really all that.
if they had Carlito with them, they might have had a chance to stay up.
I mean, with let's talk about for example Carlito. Yeah, Carlito comes in. He speaks Spanish, and like
But he was
he has a
cool.
certain style to him. But yeah, he has a certain style to him, and that
Carlito was cool.
and he was cool. Yeah, he has this obnoxious style with him. He could be this, this guy that can be rude. He could be bad heel, and people
Ironically, I thought Primo was Carlito at first. It took me a while to realize, oh wow, they're actually two different people. I thought maybe it was Carlito. I thought he came back and like cut his hair or something.
Wow, that's racist.
That actually is. But there is like if you actually think about it, like if you put them side by side, there really
They
is.
do look very, very, very similar.
They look very similar. They do.
Like,
But
really close.
yeah. I mean, it's also interesting how, and that's another thing. I think the problem with this is they bring in the international talent. They're scared to do something because they feel like they're going to be labeled racist. When that's always the case. If you look recently, I think 2 years ago with Bill DeMott, he got fired because he was supposedly training people and he was being racist about it. So that tells you something about how that's probably some view that's going on, something like that. And I think what WWE needs to do is just distance themselves from basically having that old mentality of okay, let's go with stereotypes. Let's go with something that people know.
If
Try
you're
to do something.
talented, let's keep you talented.
Yeah.
Not try and write you as the stereotypical Mexican high fly wrestler or the stereotypical British brawler, just say.
What about, for example, this is one of the most infamous gimmicks. Recently, they posted up Kofi Kingston, the Jamaican. That was just when you look at that, it's just
But what's funny is he's not even Jamaican.
he's not even Jamaican. That's the thing,
That's the
and they
funny
put
part.
Was gonna.
he from
But
Ghana.
I think it's kind of funny that they just recently had them reference that because no one ever mentioned that. Oh, he used to
Well,
be from Jamaica.
he's from Ghana actually. He's from Ghana, West Africa. I believe. They
Yeah,
built him Ghana, West Africa, and he was Jamaican. So that kind of tells you the booking. Like I think there's a problem with the booking for sure.
It's racist. The writers for WWE are racist.
They're racist indeed. I think they are. But we don't blame them for just being racist. I don't think maybe they're not that bad people. It's just I think that they don't do a
They're
lot.
writing.
Yeah, they're writing. They're not doing the research. They're just looking at it and saying, "Oh, this is basically what we're gonna say." But they should look more into it, And that's the problem that they're having. Look at
Hey, like,
Alberto Del Rio and the social media coordinator. What that whole thing turned into. It was a small little thing, and then it escalated into something else. And I think
perfect
that
example. Just say WWE does sign Ricochet, Will Ospreay, uh, Prince Puma, all of them, like all the big names. Are they gonna put them as
Ricochet is Prince Puma.
you?
Yep.
Sorry about that. Sorry, I love you, Prince Puma. You're still the shit.
I have to say his name twice.
Prince Puma, Prince Puma, Prince Puma. But just say WWE does sign all those big names from Mexico, Japan, and all that.
I get a kick if they sign both Ricochet and Prince Puma. They have them be two different personas.
Are they
They should.
actually gonna keep them with their character and gimmicks now, or are they gonna change to something stereotypical?
I think what they're doing right now, if you've seen like the trend in NXT, they try to maintain everything that they're known for on the independent scene, and they just look to accentuate that on NXT. Just kind of keep their character the same, but kind of enhance it a little bit. If you notice that Austin Aries is the exact same Austin Aries that he's always been. Samoa Joe, it's always the same Samoa Joe he's always been. Finn Balor
They just changed the name.
pretty
That was
much
it.
is pretty much like the whole Prince Devitt thing, except he's got like a dark side to him now.
The demon. Which
Kevin
I love.
Owens is pretty much Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn is kind of like similar to El Generico, except he's got a bigger underdog story, and
And
he's
the hat.
not just a luchador under a mask. He now actually gets to like be someone.
And
So
he has a
they're
hat and a jacket.
yeah, that too. He looks like Andy Capp from the Hot Fries bag. But besides that, I think that's just the direction they're going. I think it's the better direction anyway, because you want you want to take what guys have already built upon themselves on the independent
I
scene.
think the only one who actually kept the gimmick name and everything is Nakamura.
Pretty much, because
I think he kept everything.
He already had the name recognition, so all you pretty much had to do was just
Well, you were more of a overseas fan, Nick. His finisher, is it the same exact name as it was in Japan or no?
What is it?
Nakamura's finisher in Japan, was it the same name
No,
as it is in NXT?
They actually changed it in WWE to Kinshasa because the Japanese version of his previous finisher name was, I think a little bit crude than what they were going for. I don't think you could get away with it mentioning it on like Raw or something like that. So I think that's why they changed it to Kinshasa.
What was the name of it though?
I'm forgetting the name of it, but I think it had the name like Death or some sort of.
So something that's not
things.
PG.
Well, it was like anti-Middle East or something like that. I don't know. I got it from Wikipedia. It's not always the most reliable information, but it makes sense. Again, I would have to go back and do my research, but yeah, they had changed the name of it because.
So it's something that's not PG, basically.
Not that it wasn't PG, but it was like more offensive to a certain crowd.
Okay.
And they didn't want to upset that part of the fan base for WWE since they're a global company and they have the network and all
And they
that.
could lose a big.
Why? What happened? I'm
Yeah,
doing
they
they
something.
can do that too.
And they could lose a big
Talking.
company right there. They could lose a big section of their viewers.
Yeah, so they just keep it Kinshasa. That's it. They could keep the finisher.
It sounds cool too.
Yeah, it has a kick to it too. That's why I like it.
And it's even better when the announcers say the name of the finisher. They put so
Yeah,
much emphasis into it.
yeah. Corey Graves is like awesome at doing that. He's like Kinshasa, you know.
Now
It really.
just imagine Morrow announcing that.
Oh my God, I could. Mauro Ronaldo just needs to narrate life.
Well, there's a well the brand split. What do you guys think they're gonna do with the announcers? Because obviously now they can't have Michael Cole on both shows. Now they gotta do something. They gotta have some
Well,
diversity.
Well,
But
all the
Michael
announcers.
Cole isn't on both shows because they have more now. I think they'll keep this because if you notice, the announce teams are completely different for both shows, so they could still get away with doing what they're doing right now
Yeah, it's
and
Booker
just have
T.
them focus on a different roster per se. 'Cause I love Mauro Ronaldo on SmackDown.
Oh,
And
I
then you
think he's
got Jerry
amazing.
Lawler and Byron. Well, the only guy who does both shows is Byron Saxon, who's I don't know. He's getting better in terms of like doing his job, but like I can't take him seriously because
He's still
every single
bad.
like, wow, that's incredible! Oh my
Thank,
God!
thank you, Byron. We know.
It's like, yeah, we kind of already knew that, and then he keeps looking at the camera and keeps smiling at us. I can't take it.
Thank you, Byron. We know that move is amazing, and you don't have to smile at us every 2 seconds.
What a great match! Every match ever.
If anything, they should take him out, put in Renee Young or Kathy Kelly.
I'm kind of being
Uh,
intrigued by seeing Renee Young on the announce team.
Yeah,
You
I
never
mean,
really have a female commentator.
that
the
comes
only
into
time, the
that
only
comes
time
into
you really have a female commentator is when
Yeah.
it's like Charlotte, Natalia, Sasha. Just
I would actually love to
announce.
see a female commentator.
Oh, that would be great though.
Yeah, that also brings into the diversity question, which is, they need some more diversity, and that also puts into it too. They need more female, female input. Of course, they have them as like, the backstage announcers in the back or doing anything, but as like a main role, they definitely should. And it seems like they're kind of grooming like people like Renee Young to
They're
be
grooming they're grooming JoJo to do more than just announce though.
Well, I think it's just because of the look, because she has a look and everything, and also the fact that Eden left. So now they're kind of like, okay, you gotta fill that void. I mean, if you look at Eden, a black, African American, announcer, that's kind of a role right there. That's kind of that's like a step in the, a foot in the door, saying, okay, fine, this is our mark, and that's kind of interesting now, because now you see more African Americans being portrayed now on TV. New Day, for example, big influence, and people kind of don't give them credit for that. That they are this big force. They are this this they're this big faction that is comedic, yet very very serious, yet very very influential.
Very, very entertaining.
Yeah, and also that people don't give them the credit that they're also African American. They're three black guys. And another thing is that were brought in to be that kind of guy, those kind of guys. But now they kind of diverted into something bigger. So that's something good to see. But it seems like WWE, they're kind of struggling with it, but they're starting to make some strides to try to bring in international stars. And keyword, bring in diversity. But nonetheless, that's our podcast for international
Well,
stars.
before we go, I have one question. If you were the talent, like the person that goes overseas and could bring one talent over, who would you bring? Any country, any superstar?
I'd love to see what's his name, Ricochet in WWE. But obviously, they've been trying to get him onto NXT, so it tells you that WWE is paying attention to what they're doing. But I would love to see that happen.
Sal?
I agree. Same thing. Ricochet, they need to. It's not when. I mean, it's not if, but when. When will it happen? And it needs to happen soon.
My pick, Zack Sabre Jr.
Zack Sabre, yeah, it's another one. I mean, Zack Sabre Jr., the way that he performs, they need to. Because they're kind of lacking in European talent. They have the British, they have...
Well,
they
he's
have,
in the cruiserweight Classic tournament, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Is Ricochet?
Ricochet now.
I didn't. No, because he's still under contract to Lucha Underground.
He can't
Okay.
perform.
Yeah, Lucha's got him under lock. I
Well,
think
who do you think's
after
gonna win
season
that
4.
tournament?
I don't know.
Well,
It's
it's
really
kind of
up in
hard.
the air.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Well, at this point, it's gonna air soon. We'll have to find out from there. Who's gonna win. But it seems like Zack Sabre Jr. is the
The
heavy
guy?
hitter. He's the guy. I think he's the major pick right now. But yeah, I mean, we got the Cruiserweight Classic, which is global, which was originally the global Cruiserweight tournament, but now they changed it. But it's another big stride. WWE's trying to be more diverse, and it's very interesting how they're doing this. But nonetheless, this is our podcast, International Stars. Uh, by the way, happy 4th of July from us, RSN Wrestling Podcast.
And when you guys have a chance, go check out Nick's site, ProWrestlingOpinion.com.
And also, in
I had
addition,
to plug you. Nick.
Oh,
We always-
thank you. How considerate. It'll
always
make
have to
that grilled burger go down a lot better. But yeah, if you've never seen us before, check it out for WrestlingOpinion.com. We often do reviews of pretty much every single show on the national TV circuit, with the exception of a few. But check us out. I think you'll like what you read. Like I said, reading is fundamental. Reading about pro wrestling doesn't get better than that. And if you never listened to us before, feel free to check out our past episodes. We get a lot of hits on Rise and Fall of WCW, Rise and Fall of ECW, and Women of Wrestling. So be sure to check those out, and I'll throw it back to our other guys.
Yep. Basically, that's all we gotta say right now. Also, enjoy July 4th. Remember, being American is also about being diverse, celebrating the pride that we get, the independence that we get, the freedom that we have, and also paying homage to that. So, nonetheless, we're gonna see you guys out. This is a Mastermind Sal.
This is the big guy, Rich.
And the COO, Nick.
All right,
See you guys
See ya.
and happy 4th of July.